up, guys? It's your boy Sippy Cake King. Today I'm going to be going over the newest class to my online classes series. This one is entitled Floral Wedding Cakes. Now, wedding cakes are going to always be around, so if you have any fear of doing them, you may as well let it go. Because like I tell all of my students, take the wedding out of it and it's just a regular cake. So a lot of times we always focus so hard on the wedding part of it that we get stressed out and we end up not wanting to do the cake or just just over exaggerate it and not do the order at all. So I'm going to show you guys a little bit today of how to include your fresh flowers into your wedding cakes and also how to play with some different elements as well as sizes goes on the cake. As you can see, I have my foam tiers here and it's a little bit different from your traditional style cake. So you usually would have either your 4-inch height in your tiers. So this one would be a 6-inch round here at 40 inches height. And you would normally have like an 8 and a 10. So what I have now is a 6-inch. I have a double barrel 8-inch cake, and then I have my single 10-inch cake. And it's going to create a little bit more depth and dimension to the overall design of the cake. All right, so let's get started. All right, guys, so we're going to get started. So I'm going to go ahead and start prepping my my 10-inch foam layer for fondant. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be using some shortening, and it's just your regular Crisco shortening, or you can use piping gel. Some people use water. Some even use buttercream on their foam just to get it prepped. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take some of the foam, some of the, take some of the shortening and just put it all around to cover the tier completely on here. And I always just place a good amount of it. That way it sticks completely to, that way our fondant always adheres completely to the foam. And you ain't gotta worry about any part of it coming up. The good thing about using foam is you can always go back, wash the design off, reuse the foam again. So if you get to a point where you say, you know what, I don't even like this design, just peel it off and start again. So I'm gonna make sure this is covered completely all the way around. All right, so we got a good little bit of it on there. Right. So next thing I'm gonna do is go ahead and start preparing my surface for fondant. Now what I like to do, I like to use two methods when I'm preparing my work surface for fondant. I like to grease it down some, just lightly grease it with the same shortening. And I also like to use cornstarch because sometimes, depending on where you're at, your fondant can sometimes stick or get what we call elephant skin, where it kind of drips down and looks really like wrinkly. That's because it's dried out some. The shortening brings your fondant back to life. It's like lotion to the fondant, so it takes away the ash and gives it a little bit more flexibility when it's been hard and I set out too long. So I've already got my fondant colored, and I chose to color my fondant is like this. It's not, I'm not gonna say pink, but kind of like a off purple type of color. It's a really, really nice color, and I wanted it to kind of go with the flowers that I'm going to be using, the fresh flowers I'll be using. So the best thing to do when you're coloring fondant is to color it all at one time, because to avoid actually mismatching the colors or getting a color that's lighter or too dark, just go ahead and color it all at one time. I know you probably say, well, what if I don't use all that fondant, if I don't use all that color? It's better to have it on hand than not have it and have to go back and try to match a custom color that you've made for a cake. So the best thing to do is to go ahead and have it already ready to go, just in case you may need it. Be already prepared for it. Because trying to go back and match a color that's supposed to be custom can be a real pain. So I've already got my work surface greased up with my shortening. And what I like to do is just make a little disc out of my fondant. So you can see it is kind of well greased already. And it's already kind of shaped into a little disc. So what I'm gonna do is get ready to roll this out. All right. So I'm gonna pan this down so you guys can see a little bit better. All right, so I like to go ahead and dust my rolling pin, and this is where I say the cornstarch comes in. And I like to have it already greased a little bit, and I always put a little bit on here, that way it doesn't stick to it. So I always start in the center and just roll outwards. And I try to keep my fondant moving, that way it doesn't stick to the surface. So you want to take it and roll out. Now, as you can see, I probably rolled it much larger than what my cake is, but this is a good thing because this helps you just in case you don't roll enough. So when I go now, I'll add some cornstarch to the top. And what I'll do is I'll gently roll this over my rolling pin. All right. I'll take my cake. I'm going to pick up my fondant and place it over the cake, just like that. All right. So you'll have that overage on the side of the cake. I'm gonna add a little bit more cornstarch because I don't like for it to stick. I always work in front of me first. So what I do is I'm gonna take my hands, I'm using my hands, these are your best tools that you can have, and I'm just going down around the cake. Okay? Alright. What I'm doing is I'm constantly pulling away as I'm going, just using my hands. Now all those fancy tools, they're great, but your hands are always going to be your best tool just in case you get in a predicament where you don't have anything to work with. All right, so now I'm going to get my piece of wheel cutter, and I have my Wilton smoother, okay? So what I'm going to do, just go ahead and knock off the rest of that off the top and getting all the air out of here. Going down the sides. Alright. Get that. And cut off all of the excess around the base of the cake. Get as close to it as you can while it's on the board. And just cutting off all of the excess. Then you'll take your smoother and go back around it, just to smooth out any of the rough edges around the bottom, okay? So what you have is your first tier like that. All right, so we're gonna do the same thing to our next two tiers as well. So I already have the 10-inch done, so I'm gonna go ahead and continue working, and I'm gonna go ahead and roll out the one for the 6-inch, okay? So we'll go ahead and get this one greased as well because I want to save the double barrel one last because it's so much larger, and I want to show you guys how we're going to do that. All right. So what I'm going to do, again, go ahead and grease my 6-inch. And if you want to practice the foam, you can also buy the foam directly from my website at www.cakeking.com and go shop the foam store right on the website. There's a foam section on the website where you can actually buy all these different sizes and work with them. The good thing about foam cakes is it gives you another option as an artist for your client to be able to offer them different options. Because a lot of times, a lot of people want the big cakes, but they're not feeding them any guests. So they don't need to have a huge cake. So you can offer them a foam cake in place of a large cake like that. And you can just cut sheet cakes or something in the back. All right. So that's always the option for people who are on the fence about whether they want a big cake or not. All right. So again, I'm going to roll out my fondant. I always pick it up and move it around the first time when I'm doing this. You can kind of shape it the way you want to then. And I'm rolling outwards. All right. go ahead and roll my fondant directly onto itself. Again, take it and roll it right back over the tier. Plops it right down. Give it a little bit of cornstarch. Get the dryness out. Alright. Using my hands again, I'm going to work away from me. I always start in the front. Constantly moving the fondant. You don't want to move it too much or because you'll want it to tear on you. So don't pull it too far away from your cake. Alright. Take it down. Again. Alright. I'm going to cut off this excess on the bottom. Always keep your fondant covered up in a closed airtight container. Keep it from drying out. And we now have our 6-inch tier done. Alright, so what we've done so far, we have covered our 6-inch and we've covered the 10-inch in this beautiful color that we're going to be using on today's cake. So what we do when we come back, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to use an impression mat because we're going to do a diamond impression on the bottom part of the cake, okay? So we'll get right back to that as soon as we return. All right, guys, and we're back. So, like I said, we're going to go ahead and get started on our impression mat onto our fondant, and this creates a diamond impression. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to go through and make this impression on here, and then also how to add some minor details that really make it pop. So this mat is really, really easy to use. A lot of people have issues with it, but I love the fact that this mat is a little bit more sturdier. This one is by CK Products. It's a little bit thicker, so it gives you a little bit more stability and flexibility to hold on to it and really press the design into the fondant. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lay this up against my cake, and I'm just going around and I'm rolling the design around so that it gets a really good impression on there. As you can see, it goes right into there, okay? So I do the same thing all the way around. Just take it and I'm rolling the design onto there. If it doesn't make a really deep line, don't worry about it because we're gonna go back over it with our quilting tool. So again, I'll get it right on there close as I can to the design. All right. And continue that all the way around to where we can meet up again with the other side of it. Now, one of the hardest things about doing the quilt design is making sure that the pattern meets up. And sometimes it doesn't. On some cakes, it will. Some of them, it won't. Some of the sizes, it's just no way around it. So what I normally do is I try to make a faint line so that I can go back in. If you can see it right here, I'll blend those lines together, okay? So what I do, I want to get my hand print off of it so it just smooth out those sides where my hand is. Now I'll take my quilting tool now and I'll go back over these lines to try to give it a little bit more detail in there. All right. Okay. Just add in a few lines on it. It's where you get that detail effect in there of a quilt pattern line. And that's what that does. Just kind of fills it in. Gives it a little bit more detail in there because you can leave it exactly the way it is. I just have always liked to have that more defined look in there. Gives it more of a finished look. Okay. Go back over some of these areas. All right. All right. So make sure all of the lines are actually filled in all the way around. Okay. All right. So got that filled in, and it gives you a really defined line on there. Just give that a little bit more of an impression to where the lines are. So next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go in and show you how to create the little detailing effect on here to just kind of make it pop a little bit. And if you don't have the tools to do this, it's more something simple. If you have a toothpick, for instance. Matter of fact, I'll do it with a toothpick so you can see exactly how it works, okay? So what this does is it gives it a more of a quilted look, like a pillow. So what you do is just take the edge of the toothpick and press it into all of the corners of your impression, where your diamond impression was, okay? So you don't have to have all those fancy tools. You're just making little incisions with your toothpick. All right. So as you can see, you see the lines there. It gives it a really defined look on there. All right. So you continue to do that all the way around the cake. All right. All right, guys, so now that we have gotten the impression all the way around on our 10-inch tier, we're gonna go ahead and now prep to get ready for the covering of our double barrel, the big whammy of the cake, okay? All right, so go through the same steps again where we're gonna make sure that our surface is prepared, okay? So clear out the area. Alright, and we'll go ahead and start preparing our double barrel here. Alright, so what I'm going to do is, again, go ahead and coat this. And this is a little bit larger, as you can see. It's a really large layer. But we're not gonna feel defeated by it. We just gonna get it done. So the key to covering larger cakes are cakes that have odd shape or odd shapes is to making sure you have enough fondant rolled out. So I try to roll my fondant out a little bit larger than normal for these sizes here, and also you want to roll it out a little bit thicker because you want to make sure you account for any rips or tears that may happen in the process, okay? And grease this down really good. Especially around the bottom side, because this is probably where it will catch it at the bottom. All right, so remove that to the side. Go back, grease your surface again, just in case you've gotten any of the oils up from rolling everything out the first time. All right. So again, I'm gonna take my fondant. I'm gonna get an excess amount of fondant out this time because we don't know how much we're gonna need to cover such a large cake area, okay? And even though it's an 8-inch cake, you know, you can still, don't be fooled by it. It can still not be enough funding to cover such a large area. So I'm just going to knead this together a little bit. Don't want to irritate it too much. Alright. Dust my surface. Get my disc going. Alright. Put my rolling pin down and roll outwards. Remember to make sure you pick up just to make sure the surface is not sticking. If it is, you can add a little bit more cornstarch down. Alright, remember this is one you want to over roll for. Alright. So that looks like it'll be enough. So I'm going to go ahead and start rolling this up over it, over my rolling pin. And I did, like I said, roll it kind of thick, just in case it decides it wants to rip on me. Because it does do that sometimes. Alright. And you're just going to roll it over it. Now, you can pick up just a little bit on here, just to make sure it catches all the way around. As you can see on my back side, it's a little short. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work very, very carefully to get all of this in without ripping it. Alright, so I'm using my hands. Again, you know that's your best tool. Use your hands. Let's see if we can get all the way around with no problems. Because it is a large tier. So, right here, there's a little rip right there. So if you piece it back together, because the fondant will stick to each other. It always stick together. Alright, so you're going to take it, smoother now. Smooth off your tier. Smooth it all the way down. And we just may make it. Like I said, you want to roll, we could have probably went a little bit larger on here, but I didn't want to push it all the way off the counter. So I'm going to take it now. And this is where you have to really take your time and make sure that you are pulling it all the way down and not forcing it too much. Because this side was actually shorter. If you remember, I started out, I said this was not going to work because it was too much short. There's so much shorter on this side. All right, so we're going to smooth. All right. All right, let's take this. Cut off all of our excess, okay? I still left some on here, so let's get all the rest of it out. All right. All right. So I have just a little frail edge around the bottom, and we're not gonna worry about the bottom because we're gonna make sure that we have, I'm gonna be showing you how to do some molding around the bottom as well, okay? But if it was just gonna be sitting on there, just a more of a, because some of the new style cakes actually have where they don't have anything at the bottom, or they just sit flush with the board like this. There's nothing around them. So this is what we're gonna have so far. We've got nose done. We've got nose done. Okay, so now we're ready. As you can see, we have a beautiful palette right now. Beautiful, beautiful palette for right now. And now we're going to go ahead and add in some of our other details on here, okay? Now, I have this pump brush that I got from Cal Java, and you can just add luster dust to it. But I always like to go over it and brush my tears down, just to brush them, because it gives it a nice sheen and a luster finish. Just cleans it up and gets all that cornstarch off of there as well. But in the process, it shines up the tear, gives it a nice sheen. And you can order this off of caljavaonline.com. They're relatively really inexpensive, but they do look really great on the cake. Gets you a good luster dust to go in here. It opens up, you can put it in from the top or the bottom, I think, and just kind of brush over your tears. All right, so we're going to keep going now. As you can see, we got our bottom done with our nice impression on here. We've gotten our double barrel tier done, and we've gotten our 6-inch done. Now, I'm going to show you guys how to make some mold appliques using different style molds, because what we're going to do is we're going to have a mold that goes around here, a really nice mold that's going to stand out and make it pop, because we're going to paint it with some luster and silver as well. All right, so let's get to that. All right, guys, so the next thing I'm going to show you how to do is how to create an inlay. And an inlay, what that's going to do is we'll have a section here and here where we'll actually inlay another piece of fondant that'll go overlap to here and bring it all the way down. And it'll look like kind of like a window into the cake. So I'm just going to stretch it out some so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. So it'll look like this. So we'll see that. And what we'll do is we'll have, just to give you a general idea of what it will look like, I'll go ahead and create just a little pattern on here so you can see, you get an idea of what it is. It'll be like this, okay? So we'll have an insert here, and from there we'll go in and add some molding around it to give it some more detail, a little bit more character. So this is what we're stepping up and we're modernizing our cakes. You always want to stay true to yourself and the designs that you do and what you're comfortable in your skill set. But sometimes you have to kind of test yourself and go outside of the norm and kind of stick with the trends of what's going on. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to roll this out. Roll it kind of thick. And what I want to do is I want to make sure that, of course, that is long enough to go from the top to the bottom, okay? So I'm gonna roll this out. And I'm gonna eye this because I want it to be just kind of in the middle of here. I don't want it to go all the way around this whole area, all outside of here. So what I'm gonna do is, because it's gonna be cut off, you know, these sides are gonna be covered up. So I'm gonna cut my bottom off. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna eye this just to go around like this. So that I have just kind of like a teardrop shape. So what I'll do now, I'll pick this up so I can see how big it is. So I can see there that that's way too big for what the area that I want to cover. So I'm gonna go back, cut again. Wax off this a little bit at the top. All right. So from there. So what we have there is almost perfect. So I'm gonna shred it off just a little bit more. You won't get it perfect the first time, which is why I'm showing you my mistakes as well. That way you can kind of see it's not going to be all the way perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of water and I'm going to just wet this area up a little bit that I'm going to be using. So I'm going to take my paintbrush and just lightly brush over that area, because as you know, the fondant will stick to the water a lot better. So I'll put it there and there. So before we get too far, I also want to make sure that we don't, because we're using this already, and we're already on the step on the right path for this to keep everything in the right line. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and place my center dowel in, because I won't be moving this anymore. So I'm just gonna take a dowel, just a skewer, and just go all the way through the top of the cake. Okay. All right. So from there, we got it's stable enough so it won't move on us. All right. So go back to dusting this. All right. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and place it on here, just like this. So if you get an area that is not sticking all the way, just go ahead and add a little bit more water to that area, okay? All right. We'll leave that little overlap up there. So essentially what you have is this. And it doesn't look like, it looks very seamless right now, because you can't really see anything because it's kind of blended in, but that's the look that we actually want, okay? So what we're gonna do is go in now, and you can do one of two things. You can give this a very nice impression. I'm using the alligator matte, and this matte, they have it on Amazon now. It gives it this type of impression on there. So they have all these different types of impressions that you can use, or you can use your handy dandy diamond print, which is what I'm going to use, okay? Just wanted to give you guys an idea of the different options. So what I'm going to do, again, same way we did our cake, I'm going to go ahead and impress this in, bring it all the way up again, and give it another nice impression. Pressing my design in, take it all the way to the top, line it up again, and you really want to make sure this is really straight, because this is the focal point of your cake right here, okay? So I'm going to roll this design on to my cracks, go up, and take it all the way up, okay? So it continues all the way up. When I get to the little sections here, what I'll do is I'll try to line it up even for the top part with what's right by it. So I'll get as close to the design as I can, so it will line up on there. Okay. Same way up here. And I'm just rolling this on so that it'll have that impression at the top as well. All right. So same way we did on the bottom half, we're going to do in the middle here, okay? So we'll go ahead and add our lines in. Okay. And a lot of the times when I'm doing these cakes like this or these different designs that are kind of quirky or a little bit more modernized, I usually get my design inspiration from just different elements. So I could be in a store and I'll see a pillow or something, or I'll see a picture, a painting or something, and it'll give me an idea for a cake. So we get inspiration from the strangest places. Sometimes even food. I'll see things that I'm like, oh, you know what, that'll be nice on a cake. So we have that middle part there, okay? So that's what we're looking like so far. I'm gonna use my brush again, okay? All right. Go in on here. I missed the top part, so I'm gonna go back up here and do the top. All right. Okay. So we got that. Now, go ahead and use my tool again. I'm gonna go ahead and imprint the remaining imprints on here for this middle section, okay? All right. So you'll get the idea of what that middle will look like, okay? All right. So we'll finish this off, come back and start doing some molding, all right? So we'll go ahead and start creating our mold pieces. So go ahead and clear off your surface and we'll come back, we're gonna get started with doing our molds, all right? All right, guys, and we are back now. Now we're gonna be working with molds. Molds add so much character to your cakes. They give it a little bit more definition. They give it a little bit more oomph in there. I just love the character of molds. Now this mold, I can't tell you where it came from because I really don't know. I know I got it at a cake show and I have no idea what company it came from. I have no idea where to find it, but it has become my favorite mold because it leaves such a beautiful impression on a cake. So I'm going to be using this mold, and I'm also going to be using a mold by Wilton, which leaves a nice drooping pearl effect because I wanted some sugar pearls to come out of the floral arrangement that we're going to make. So all you do is you make a little sausage, what I call it, and roll it out and put it into the mold. You make sure that you dust the mold really well, and that gets all to make sure that that the design comes out of it and it doesn't get stuck to the mat itself. Okay. So I'm just using a spatula, just the icing spatula. This is really, really simple. This is the part that takes the most time because you want to make sure that everything comes out really nice and neat. So this is what we have so far. All right. So we'll do another one. As you can see, I use all of that fondant that we had so much excess of because I'm going to be using it in the elements of the design on here. Okay. As you can see, I'm not really using too many colors, extra colors, because I really want the focal point to be the flowers. And when we do the bouquet of flowers on here, you'll see exactly what I mean, because you didn't want to add too much color to it. All right. So I'm just going to create some more of these because we're going to need enough to go down our middle section. Okay. All right. So let me show you how we're going to assemble these molds on the cake. All right. All right. So got the mold out of there. I usually just take a brush and dust over it to get all that extra cornstarch off of there because it's going to go back and we're going to actually touch it up again. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my mold now. And I'm going to start from the top. So I'm going to get a little bit of water. And all we're doing is the outline of this. So we're only doing this part here. Because we're going to frame it out almost like a picture. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to apply it right to the cake, okay? All right. And I'm just adding water to it, okay? Now, got the first one on. Now you can just apply the water to the back of your mold, and the water acts as glue to this, okay? And as you can see, we only needed 2 to go around this. All right. So as you can see, we framed out our little window there. All right. Got one side done. So we'll make a couple of more molds so we can see how this is gonna look all together. This is beautiful. This color, everything on this is really, really beautiful. I think this looks more like a Valentine's Day cake design. So with Valentine's Day coming up in a couple of months, because you're gonna need some designs. There's always a bride for Valentine's Day, always. And I always say this, and this is just my opinion. When people get married on Valentine's Day or holidays, I just think it's selfish. Because you know you've taken everybody else away from that day for your wedding or your event, you know. So, and I might want to spend Valentine's Day with my boo or something. I gotta come to your wedding, or I gotta make your cake. So that's why I always stick away from it. Even when I was in the bakery, I still tried to not do events and stuff around certain dates, because those certain dates you want to allocate for yourself. Major holidays and stuff like that, you don't want to get too burned out with cake that you forget that you still have a life, because cake can be very, very time consuming. Takes you away from your family, some of the things that you love. Even though we love doing cake, there's also life outside of cake. So find that work-life balance. Okay. All right, so get one more out of here. As you can see, this is really, really simple. All you're doing is just really just filling the cavity with fondant. That's it. And sometimes I'll go in and I'll piece little pieces together just to add in and make sure the design is finished out. This, like again, this is your part that's probably the most time consuming, is making sure that you get all of your molds and all of your little small details done, because you want it to look, you know, you really want the details to stand out more than anything. So again, I'll go here. Try not to press too much on there, or you end up pressing the design off. Okay. And this is just a beautiful, beautiful, timeless cake design. Oops, got that one upside down. They actually fit into each other as well. All right. So what I'm gonna do, get that placed right on there, and I'm gonna take my pizza cutter and just go around the base of it to get that excess fondant off, okay? Alright. So from there, this is what we've done so far. We've got it outlined out, and what I can see, if you guys can see this going from your view, I've got this side curved more. So I want to go ahead and, while it's still wet, kind of curve out the other one to give it more of a curved look. And you can move these around, you know, they're not just stuck in place. They're not glued once you put water down to them. Okay. So what that does, that gives it a nice rounded off curve. So you can see it goes down kind of like into a V. So as if you was opening up that part of it, okay? All right. So let's keep moving. Go ahead and brush off all of our excess. All right. So all of our little cavities that we have left, we're gonna make sure that we fill those in because we do have to fill all of these in, these little holes. You can leave them like that because it gives it like a nice little puncture look. But I always like to take things to the next level, so I always try to finish them off. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and I'm gonna make a couple more molds, and you continue and do the same thing, and we're gonna mold out and come back. We'll mold out all of this here. So we have nice molds going all the way around here to give it a very, very nice polished and finished look. So you can use any mold that you may have. Again, I told you that we will be using another mold as well, which is the Wilton mold that has the pearls on it. I really like that mold, and I'll show you guys what it looks like when we come back. But it's just a pearl mold, and we're going to use those pearls inside of our bouquet, and that'll come down out of the bouquet. Okay. All right. Let's continue making these molds. All right, guys, so we are now back and we have put our pearl molds, all of our molds have been affixed to the cake now. And I'm going to show you how this pearl one goes right quick before we go on. I decided we'll just add the pearl mold all the way around. Now you can get this mat from Michael's or Amazon, anywhere, and all you're doing is just taking a little bit of fondant, making a little snake, pushing it into the mat like this, and the same way we did the other one, you're just gonna pull the excess fondant across the top. That's it. And the mold, it comes out like that in a full string of pearls, just like that. So once we get all our flowers and stuff attached, we'll go ahead and drip all of these down. And like I said, you can do anything you want to do with this. You can go ahead, you can add in a little bit more detail to it if you want to. You know, it just gives it a different look. Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead with you guys, and we'll make a couple more of these before we go on to the next step. Okay. So we'll do that, and we're just adding it, and we're just outlining the molds that we already have on there. So it just gives it a little bit more detail on here, okay? Alright. Again, you just make a little round like that. Press it into the mat, pull it off. Add a little bit more water to your fondant. Good thing about this is fondant sticks to fondant, so you only just need a little bit of water just to get it off of there. I just take the edge of my blade, any sharp area, blade or anything, and just cut off the excess, okay? See, again, we created just a little bit more detail in there. Just gives it a little bit more. Okay. All right. So we'll do two more to get the other side done, so that we can match. By now, you should have overcome that fear of doing a fondant cake, because you have nearly done an entire cake in fondant. Normally, you guys see me doing the opposite. I'm normally doing all buttercream, but this time I just wanted to just do something different and give you guys a little bit something new for the new year. Okay. All right. So we got that last one. All right. So go ahead, add a little bit more water to this. Just go and feed that all the way down the line, okay? All right. And that part we have done. So again, we take our little duster and go through and dust it out. Make sure everything lines up really nice, which it does. We're looking awesome. So the next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna go ahead and put in our pearl beads, okay? Our little beads, edible beads. So I'm gonna get some piping gel, and I have these little pearls, okay? And we'll get the surface prepared, and we'll start on that part, all right? All right, guys, and we are now back, and we're ready to continue on adding on our pearls now. As you can see, we've gotten started on here adding our pearls. You can see some of the little smaller details with the sugar pearls that are on here, where we used our Wilton Matte for those. And we also added our pearl details along the molding that we had from our first mold set. All right. So to add in these little sugar pearls, all you do is go through here and use your piping gel. And I'm just adding in just a little dab of it in every little crease. All right. Get all of the little creases. And that just gives the little sugar pearls something to cling to. These are edible again. So you can tell your client they can't eat these. They're not going to kill them or anything. All right. So I also see that in the top here, as you can see, I missed one little section right here with my indention. Told y'all. Players mess up too. Even the professionals, we make mistakes. All right. So go in, and all you do is just pushing these little pearls in to here. And you can get these anywhere. Walmart sells them. They're like 99 cents at Walmart. You can get them in different colors. I just thought the white would have been a nice accent. Usually, if you've seen all of the cakes that I normally do, they're usually gold and another accenting color. But I really like the silver tonight, so I wanted to do something different. Okay. Alright. We'll add the rest of them in to our opening here, but we're going to call this our window. A window to see the rest of this beautiful cake. This color is really, really beautiful. This is really, really outside of the norm for me because I normally do not do all one color cakes like this or just this type of detailing. But every now and then, you just want to step it up and give something more and do more of a regal look. So this kind of sets the tone for us for 2019 for Cake King University. So we're going into the new year with some new designs, and we definitely are excited about it. Okay. All right. Let's see where we're missing them at. We want to add a few more in it. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and add a couple more. As you can see these points here, add a couple more here where you can actually see the details a little bit more. Okay. And it just kind of finishes it off. And you'll do that as you're designing. You'll go through and you'll see, you know what, I may need to add a little bit more there. I think the one thing that I always say the most that's so important when designing custom cakes is to know when to stop. You have to know when is enough is enough. When you step back and you take a look at the cake and you say, you know what, I think I've done enough. Just let it go. That's the best way to put it, just to let it go and don't feel like you have to keep going, because you don't. Sometimes less is always more. That principle applies in so many aspects of our life. So just realizing that you don't have to keep going, you can stop. Add one there, and we'll do one more just to finish this off here. All right. Guess we got lucky because it was just one more. All right, so as you can see, we have all of our middle sections done. All right, beautiful, beautiful double barrel there. This is gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. Okay. All right, so on this other side here, I want you to see the back side of the cake as well. So when we were rolling out our fondant, this is where I could always show you where the mistakes are. So when we roll out our fondant, I remember I told you have to roll the fondant really thick when you're doing these double barrels like this. So you can see on here, this line here will represent what it would look like if you had a cake and the cake was turned the wrong ways or the filling wasn't in there properly. Because you always want to, when you fill your cakes, you want to fill them down. So you want to feel like when you level your cakes off from the pan, you'll level it off and you'll put it down on the pan. You'll add your icing to there, your middle tier, and then you'll go ahead and flip the next cake down on top of that one. That eliminates that air pocket that forms in there. So what this really looks like is an air pocket if you had frosted your cakes wrong. But what it is because we put 2 of the 8 inches together, it pretty much just didn't sync up all the way, and the fondant could have been rolled just a little bit thicker. Okay, all right. So we good on this end. So what we could actually do if we wanted to just take it a little step further and just give it more of a detailed look, we could take our bling and continue the bling on if we wanted to. Just to give it a nice look, and I'm just going to use this color. It's not the color that we'll use. But if you wanted to create like a belt around there, you could, you can do so much with this, with the design. But like I said, you have to know when enough is enough to know when to stop. Now, for me, this is gorgeous. So we'll go on and move on to the next step in the process now, okay? I'm gonna move this up a little bit. All right, so our last step that we want to do is now going to go through, before we do our flower arrangements and everything, I'm gonna go through and dust everything. So I'm gonna dust everything off. Just completely just dust off everything that we've been working on. All right, so these molds are beautiful. They're beautiful as they are. In their own retrospect, you really don't have to do anything else to them. But I'm going to dust these molds a little bit with a little bit of silver. So what I'm going to do is take my silver luster dust and I'm going to go over it, okay? So you mix your luster dust with a little bit of Everclear, okay? So your Everclear, and I get my luster dust. You can get this from Amazon, and it's the Ideal brand. You get that from Amazon, and you can order that off of there. If you got Prime shipping, it'll come in a couple of days. All right, so what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna mix just a little bit of Everclear. because I just want to get it just a little bit liquefied to where it almost becomes like a paste. So what I'm going to do is get a brush. I'm going to take my brush and just dab it in here. I'm just dabbing the ends of it. And I want to just lightly brush it over the ridges of this of the mold. So as you can see, what I'm doing is just highlighting the mold, just highlighting some of the areas on the mold of detail. It gives it more of an old aged look. And this looks especially beautiful when you're doing gold applicates as well. And all I'm doing is just brushing it. I'm brushing all of it just to give it more of an antique look. Okay. All right. So as you see, we've given it a little bit of an old age look with this, which really just brings out the detail in it. And it's the same way with our pearls around here. Just lightly dust them with the brush. You know, the brush has already been dampened. Just clean it off the sides, and you just going around it. Now, just in case you happen to get some of the paint on your cake, you can take your brush, another brush, and just dip it in your Everclear, and it'll come right off. What I do is just take a little bit of, add a little bit in the top, just in case I get some on there, and you can just brush it right off of the cake. Same thing, you can clean up your board. So this dissolves in the air, so you don't have to worry about it. You know, oh my God, the client is gonna taste it. No, they're not. It's not even enough on here for that. I'm sure they would love to have an alcohol-infused cake, but make sure you also check with the laws in your area when you're doing any cakes infused with alcohol, okay? It's just a little quick tip in there. And I'm just gonna go around, just cleaning up some of it that might have got on there. And if you see that you just got a little bit too much in one area, just dampen your brush and go over it with the Everclear, okay? All right. So we've gotten that done, and as you can see, guys, it looks beautiful. It really does. If they had a topper or something right here, you could actually stop and put their topper on here, and this cake is beautiful as is. We're gonna go in now and gonna add in some fresh flowers to the top, and we're gonna make a little bouquet at the top of the cake, and that will finish it up, and we'll adorn it a few more with some more sugar pearls, and that'll finish it off. Okay. All right, guys, so we're going to move on to the last step now, which is going to be inputting the flowers into the cake. So if this was a real cake, we would have to take all of our flowers, and what I prefer to do is to cut off the ends of them, and I would wrap these in foil. I usually wrap these in foils, and you can also get those little styrofoam blocks from your floral store or Michael's or any craft store, and use those. But what you want to make sure that you have a barrier between the flowers and the cake. If you're going to use them on top, you need to put some type of barrier there. So whether it's a small cake board or something, if you're going to put that block on there where it can sit on there and come off. Even when you're doing flowers here and there, you know, in the little areas around the cake, you want to wrap those ends, okay? With some foil or saran wrap, because what you don't want to do is stick the flowers directly into the actual cake if it's a real cake, because you don't know what they've sprayed on these flowers. You don't know what chemicals on these flowers that could be harmful for the client and the guest. So I have seen many times where people are setting up wedding cakes and they're sticking the flowers directly into the cake. That's a big no-no. So we're gonna get started. So what I've done is, because this is just a display, and if you're working on a real cake or the display cake, like I said, you want to create something on there, some type of barrier. So my barrier for the cake is going to be a block of fondant. So I already got all this extra fondant. So what I did is just made a small little glob and put at the top of here, because this will act as just like my piece of foam if I would have had a flower foam. So I can just stick it right into the fondant, okay? So we're gonna get started with this, and we're going to build our display around the top of this cake, okay? All right, so I'm going to take some of the greenery as well, and I'm going to incorporate that into the cake as well. So what I'm doing is taking my flowers, and I'm cutting off my ends, and I'm just going to start creating the random pattern in the top of the cake, because I want to take the flowers and I want to create like a bouquet of some sort in the top of it, because I'm going to also use some of these flowers around the cake, around these different parts of the cake. So you have to almost become a florist when you're doing these cakes, because in a sense you're creating an effect on these with these flowers, and you're rebuilding what you've already seen in different arrangements. So you want to make sure that if you're using flowers like at the top, like I am now, that you have enough for one that'll carry you through the whole cake, just whatever area that you're working on, okay? So I'm just gonna build around this. And a lot of times you'll actually get to see what you're doing. If you step back, you take a look at it, you'll say, oh, you know what, I don't like that there. You can pull it out. If what I've noticed to be really good, if a bride says they want fresh flowers on their cake, you can tell them and find out first if they have a florist already. If they have a florist that they're going to be working with at the wedding, you can actually tell the florist to leave some of the flowers there for you, and you can use those flowers for the cake. That just takes you off there, okay? That way you don't have to go and try to buy no flowers to go on the cake. You already got them. And they're going to already have them there anyway. Most florists just always leave a lot of extra flowers. Alright. So my goal is to fill in as much as I can on here, around the base of here, and filling in some of my greenery on here to make sure that we can see everything from the top. So it's almost like a very nice arrangement, okay? So it's sitting off the top of this. All right. So again, if this was a real cake, of course, we would not be sticking these directly onto the cake per se, but we would be able to wrap them on here. All right, so we wrap those ends. So again, I'm gonna take another little block right here, and I'm gonna just put it right here in the corner, and that's what I'll use to place some of my smaller flowers down below. I love the greenery part of the flowers when you're doing them on cakes, because it gives it a really nice look, just a freshness look on there. So I'm just taking some of the smaller flowers now. Okay. Like I said, you're gonna have to become a florist in this because you're gonna have to piece some stuff together to make it look really, really natural. Um, and like I said, if you have some pieces that need to be cut down, you know, that's gonna be up to you to use your best judgment to see where things need to go. Okay? And it's best, sometimes what I do is I'll step back and look at everything and I'll say, you know what, I probably should have moved this somewhere else, or I need to take this part out just to give it a better overall flow. The flow is so important on a cake because there's nothing worse than a cake that don't make sense. I always say, you know, if it don't make sense, it's no point. If you don't get it, if the people have to ask questions like what were you trying to, you know, what were you going for when you did it, then you've lost it. I mean, you've lost the whole vision, and there's nothing like you having a vision and nobody else understanding your vision. So I always see people say, "Well, I was going for what I was going for." Yeah, that may be what you was going for, but that's not what was portrayed. You know, it didn't come across like that. And we may have a vision, but it always don't come across the way we want it to come out. All right. So I'll fill in a little bit more on here. Take a few leaves as well and fill those in. And like you can see right here, where you have to take some off when it can be a little bit too overpowering in some spots. Just take some off and add to it, okay? Alright, and the good thing about when you're building on a cake that's already established, you can, you're able to go through here and just pull some of them out if you don't really need them. Because sometimes it can just be a little bit too much. Like on here, I just move some stuff around because the greenery is always supposed to be your background point. It's not your focal point. It shouldn't stand out more than anything else. It's just a nice added touch. That's all it, you know, it's made for. Okay. All right. So I told you guys that we were going to go back and we were going to add another detail in here once we got set, okay? So we're going to move all our leaves and stuff out of the way. We don't need any of those. Any of your excess, fondant, all that, you can throw that away. All right, so we're going to take our sugar pearls again and make some pearls. Take the fondant and make some sugar pearls because we want to drip the sugar pearls from the cake. We want to drip them out of the flowers, okay? So to make a complete pearl look, you have to use two strings, not just one, but two of them. You have to make two. All right. So you'll have one, and then we'll make one more to add in. Add to that one. All right. So what we'll do is take these and just kind of droop it to where it looks like they're actually stringing from the cake itself. And you just piece these together with a little water. It'll stick directly to the fondant, but it's just supposed to look like they're just drooping from there. Just nice strings of pearls. So we have pearls that just strand down from it, okay? And so you'll add in a row of those to where it's just, it gives that effect that the pearl is just dripping down the cake, okay? All right. So I'll make one more and I'll put it down here with the other flowers. Beautiful, beautiful. Beautiful cake. These colors are really, really vibrant. This can go for either a springtime or a summertime wedding, as well as well, now people choose colors for any time of the year, so you can use them at any time of the year. It doesn't really matter. I'm seeing some summer colors being used in, you know, in the evening time. I'm sorry, in the winter time. All right, so we'll add a little bit of water on here. And we'll place that on there. Same way here. Add a little bit of water to it so it can stick to it. And piece them together at the ends, okay? So, now we've dripped it down all the way. So as you can see, we have made our fresh floral arrangement. We've made sugar pearls. We've did mold appliques. We have done the pearl inlays on our quilted pattern. And we've learned that we can do a double barrel and how to give it an antique effect on here. So we've done quite a few things on this cake. There are a lot of details have been added to this cake. Like I said, it looks like an intricate design, but it's actually super easy. Because all you're doing is you're taking piece by piece. So when you're doing wedding cakes, just break them down cake by cake. So we got one cake that's a quilt pattern. That's one cake out of the way. We have another cake that's smooth. So we just covered a smooth tier. Push that out the way. Another smooth tier out of the way. Push it out the way. So we cut out a piece of fondant. And all we did was just made a circle around on a fondant sheet that we laid out. And we just put our impression mat over it. It was just as simple. So these designs look really, really difficult in detail, but they're really not. They're simple designs that have been broken down into sections and put together to make one large cake. So the most important thing is making sure that the details and everything makes sense. You know, everything needs to flow and it needs to make sense. Again, it's a really simple cake. This cake could easily go for anywhere from 800 plus. In some instances, in some cities, you probably can get $1,000 off of it. I mean, it's a very detailed cake. It's very, very beautiful, as you can see. You can do it in any color scheme, any color set, any number of variations can go into this. You can change it all if they want it gold. You can change the pearls to gold. The bling can be gold. You can do gold brushing on here to give it a nice antique look. But the possibilities are endless on this, okay? So don't just feel like you're limited to one type of design or work on here, okay? So again, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in to this the Floral Wedding Cakes class. I hope that you have learned a lot from it. I am again Sippy Cake King, and I appreciate you for tuning in. Thank you guys.